Carolyn Elefant is the General Counsel to the Marine Energy Trade Association here in Washington. Carolyn, this extraordinary conference we're attending and filming is hugely exciting. What does the General Counsel do? What are the legal issues in America?
Primarily the greatest legal issue or the greatest legal challenge is permitting. So since OREC was founded about 7 years ago, we've been working to try to streamline the permitting process and come up with ways that these small technologies can be permitted. One of the challenges is that most of the permitting processes in place right now are for larger types of projects, and it's really regulatory overkill for smaller projects like marine hydrokinetics. So
if you want to put a power plant in the ocean, off a beach somewhere, where do you apply?
Okay, well, I have to give a very lawyerly answer that it depends, because depending on where you are in the ocean, if you're up to 3 miles out, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission would have jurisdiction over it. Beyond 3 miles, except off the coast of Texas, is beyond 10 miles, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management would lease the lands under the water, and then FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, would still have authority to issue the license.
Navigation issues of the Coast Guard? Or?
Then, yes, there are other agencies involved. They cooperate in the process. So there is the Coast Guard, there are the fish and wildlife agencies, resource agencies. There are also, let's see which other ones. If you're within 3 miles, the states own the lands underneath the water, and so you may have to work with a state agency to lease that land to get property rights for it. So those are all of the
How long
agencies.
does it take to get the requisite permits from conceiving a project to starting work on it?
Well, we don't necessarily have the numbers out on starting work because people haven't started work, but OREC recently did a review of the 4 licenses issued in 2012 for projects, and these projects started anywhere between, initiated the process with a preliminary permit anywhere between 7 to 8 years. And it just took that long to do studies, to get the information together, to submit to the FERC. And once FERC gets the information, they're fairly efficient, at least in regulatory time. I mean, it takes them about a year to act on something once they have it. But what that year doesn't reflect are all the years leading up to it, where you have to do the studies and consult with the agencies.
So is this typical or atypical of new big projects?
Yes and no. I mean, what's typical is the degree of regulation. If you're going to build a nuclear plant or an electric generating plant, you're going to have to deal with a lot of those agencies. What is unique is that this is a very underfunded organization. A pipeline, for example, can plow through this type of regulatory process in 6 to 8 months because they can immediately hire contractors to do studies, to do outreach. So, what I've always said is that if you have enough money, you can permit anything, and the regulatory process won't bother you.
Finally, would you like to see legislation, and what would legislation do to help your life?
I'm not so sure that legislation would be the appropriate fix, because legislation in turn entails additional regulation. I think really what's needed is a more coordination between the agencies and a commitment to do what it takes to permit these projects. I think that would be very helpful, is just the commitment to move them forward with all of the agencies, plus more data, and we're starting to see that data. And I think once the concerns about impacts are resolved, I think things can move more quickly too.
Very interesting. Thank you very, very much indeed.